Hey guys, first regardsman here, and I'll be talking about a last Fusil build for the Sniper class in Space Marine 2 Patch 13. Now, the main idea behind this build is using our last Fusil for horde control and maximizing range damage with stuff like targeted shot, and for that reason, we will be using the rate of fire version because this one's overall DPS is just by far the highest. It also makes it very easy to just rapid fire into a Minotaur's horde and trigger perk effects like our Brutal Rampage or things up here like Instant Health. Now, for the perk tree here, we do go into the ammo capacity version first with this perk down here with increased capacity, mainly because if you take all of these perks down here, you will hit the breakpoint to get back 3 shots instead of 2 off of versatile precision, so pretty good option for that, which is why I go down that row. Now, the next perk here is adamant restoration, going here into the perk amplification. This will just give us a wider radius on our beam by 15%, and then move up here into the perk headhunter, and then we take a beam radius perk again, and then move through here into Great Might and Divine Might because this one gives us more damage in my testing, and the perk up here Headhunter, and the next perk here is Brutal Rampage. After killing 3 enemies or more with 1 shot, you will deal 25% more damage for 5 seconds. This is really good for clearing out Minotaur's hordes of Hormagaunts and stuff like that, because basically you'll trigger this perk at 5 seconds of bonus damage to shoot Majoris around them, so pretty strong for that. And the perk up here, Instant Health, is pretty good for recovering if you're low HP, but usually if you take the perk over here, Purification, doesn't really come up that much because this one kind of saves your life all on its own, so a little bit redundant to go up here into this tree. Next perk here is Increased Capacity and Increased Capacity again, and that's pretty much all there is for the last Fusil build. Now, for our secondary, I do take the Firepower Bolt Pistol, mainly because this one is pretty fast to fire, and that does help us out with things like Pattern of Excellence to actually trigger these 3 consecutive headshots. And even though you can do this on the last Fusil, it's just easier with a bolt pistol, so for that reason, we take the Firepower variant. This one also has the highest gun strike damage out of all these options, so it's good for that as well. Now, for the perk tree here, we do go down the top tree predominantly, starting off with the perk over here, Perpetual Precision. Maximum spread decreases by 10%, and moving here into the perk Headhunter for a 10% damage buff. And then we pick up the perk Gunstrike Reload, Increased Capacity, Headhunter again, and then the most important perk here, which is Elite Hunter. After killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a melee weapon, headshots will deal 50% more damage for 10 seconds. Now, this will trigger on a melee execute, not just a melee kill, just keep that in mind. Although to actually have this perk take effect, you do have to have your secondary equipped. If you swap off of it for any reason, you will lose the effect entirely, so just keep that in mind. Next perk here is Headhunter down here to the perk Extended Magazine, and the final perk here is Divine Might, and that's pretty much all there is for the bolt pistol. Now for the melee weapon, we do take the Argent Edge, and the Argent Edge is very strong on this build in particular because number 1, this has the perk effect Scathing Retort, where the post window is shorter, but each perfect parry damages and staggers the enemy. This will give you a gun strike opportunity on every single enemy you parry on the first parry no matter what because of this effect, and that really helps us out with things like Exacting Focus down here for a 20% range damage buff for 10 seconds after a gun strike. And usually on the sniper class, you will get a parry, you will gun strike the enemy, and you'll immediately fire off your last Fusil or go cloak and fire off your last Fusil, and because of that, you're getting a tremendous damage increase unlike targeted shot and Exacting Focus being up from that gun strike, so a really powerful option. Now, for the perk tree here, we do start off with the perk Armored Strength first, or excuse me, Perpetual Strength first. Moving here to the perk Kinetic Energy, each consecutive heavy attack increases heavy attack melee damage by 3% up to 30% for 3 seconds. Now, this perk is okay on the Argent Edge. Your speed here is not that fast, so Power Gladius can be better for horde control, but this one's still quite strong. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength over here into the perk Heavy Onslaught. Heavy attacks with this weapon deal 15% more melee damage. Then we grab the perk here, Reeling Blow, down to Shadow Stab for single target damage. Then I go up here into Tide of Battle and Shoulder Bash because replacing Distance Stab with Shoulder Bash, this lunging attack just feels way better to me, so I do prefer it. And the final perk is Terminus Slayer for more boss damage. That's pretty much all there is for our melee weapon. Now for the Sniper's perk tree, I do take the perk here, Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 20% against Majoris and higher enemies. This is pretty nice with the Argent Edge. The base damage of the Argent Edge is actually pretty high in this game, so he does really benefit from a multiplicative melee damage buff here. Though I will say, if you want to take Block Break for an easier time with Horde Clear against Shielded Zangors or like Biovores and Sword Warriors, you could do that. I just prioritize this one. Next perk here is Vantage Point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your ranged weapons damage by 20%. This is a very substantial buff to your range damage here, and the last Fusil especially can take advantage of this with the rate of fire version, so pretty strong perk option. And also the perk up here, high capacity, does very little for you on the last Fusil here because we already hit the breakpoint just by taking all these perks down here to actually get the 3 shots back on a single versatile precision trigger. This one doesn't take us up to 4 at all, so really not worth taking. Next perk here is lethal efficiency because it's the only one that works with the last Fusil. It just makes you have infinite ammo and like Hormigaunt hordes. And the next perk for your team perk selection is squad renewal. A headshot kill restores ability charge by 10% for any squad member. Now, if you're taking like a bolt sniper or things like that, these days you can actually take things like precision targeting or the perk up here marksmanship, but squad renewal is much better for the last Fusil because unfortunately you will not trigger lingering concealment immediately after you start charging your weapon. You actually have to fire off last Fusil, and unlike a bolter, you get like the break immediately. Last Fusil will not do that because the charge does not actually count as an attack until you actually fire off the laser beam. So that is kind of like an unfortunate perk combo there, so you don't really get the full benefit from these perks. Next perk here is Purification, mainly activating Camo Cloak removes negative status effects and restores all contested health. And now the next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. This helps out the last Fusil with breakpoints and killing things like Neurothropes pretty well, and also Tactical Ambush down here. We don't really get a ton of benefit from this on Argent Edge compared to a Power Gladius, so this is kind of the no-brainer option. The next perk here is Lingering Concealment, going down here into the perk Power of Excellence. Performing 3 consecutive headshots for equipment charged by 1, the cooldown is 30 seconds. This just gives you back 30-second melt-the-bombs, shock nades, cracks, and stuff like that. And equipment is the #1 way you actually get back like Majora's Horde Clear and stuff like that in this class, so for that reason we pretty much always pick it up. Now for the Prestige perk tree, I do take the perk here Emperor's Grace first. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. This invulnerability is super useful on this class. You can do a ton with this perk. You can dodge out of like Hellbrute beams, you can dodge out of their Hellbrute AoE, you can also do things like just slipping through the Neurothrope waves and stuff like that. Super useful perk. Next perk here is Versatile Precision to give us back like 15% of our primary weapons ammo on a secondary kill with a 15-second cooldown. Super strong option, especially on this class, and like this is really how you solve your ammo economy on this gun. Final perks here are Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction, into the perk here Exacting Focus for dealing 20% more range damage for 10 seconds after a gun strike. And that is pretty much all there is for this build, guys. You know, I will say this build will perform very well against both Chaos and Tyranids. The last Fusil is a very powerful gun, and hopefully this build guide helped you. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. If you want to catch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description, alongside a link to my community Discord. Hey guys, first regards here, and I'll be talking about a Bull Carbine Sniper build for Space Marine 2 Patch 13 to dominate both Chaos and Tyranid operations and hard strats. Now, the ammo reserve option on the automatic Bull Carbine is one of the best options for close range in the entire game. This thing is super ammo efficient, has a ton of damage, and even though you have 2 accuracy here, if you pick up the perk Home Precision for a 50% reduced spread while hip firing, it really does not matter at all. Like, you completely circumvent this stat entirely and get the full benefit of a fat magazine size and a fat ammo reserve. Now, for the rest of the perk tree on this, I do start off with the perk here Headhunter first, moving here into the perk Rapid Health, but then I pick up the perk Divine Might for a 10% damage buff, then we grab Headhunter and Headhunter again for a 20% headshot damage increase, going down to Extended Magazine, Divine Might again for another damage increase, and then I pick up the perk here Cleaving Fire. Shots will penetrate enemy block stances, dealing 25% of the usual damage. Now on this build, I am taking the block break perk, so this actually goes up to like 75%, which means you can pretty much sit in a Tyranid warrior's face and just barrel stuff them and still do a ton of damage. Really nice option for that. Moving here into the perk Adamant Hunter, when your health is below 30%, headshots will deal 25% more damage. This is a super powerful headshot damage increase, and being below 30% HP on a sniper class with things like Purification and of course Emperor's Grace and Conviction is actually pretty easy, because this sniper class is very strong at just not dying at low HP and really just not dying in general, because sniper is just kind of cracked when it comes to like recovery tools like Purification. Now the next perk I take here is Maximum Spread Reduction for Perpetual Precision, moving up here into the perk Gunstrike Reload to instantaneously reload our weapon on a gunstrike. Now on this build I am taking Argent Edge, so having gunstrikes will happen all the damn time, and also this might be a little bit redundant with stuff like Dexterous Hands because you do get a faster Bull Carbine reload speed off of this perk, but that being said, an instantaneous reload speed on a gunstrike, that does feel pretty good in this game. And if you really don't want this perk, you could go here for like Recoupment instead, and if you really don't care for the top top row at all, you could go all the way down here for more ammo and things like Divine Might for 10% damage buff. That is up to you. That is all there is for the primary range weapon. Now for my secondary weapon, I do take the Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol Retribution's Bequest, mainly for the super high gun strike damage here, because once again, we do have an Argent Edge for gun strikes, and on top of the fact that having an option to stop reinforcement calls from long range is pretty nice on this build, because our primary is not very good at that at all, so definitely nice synergy there. Now for the perk tree here, I do start off with the perk Divine Might first, moving here to the perk Perpetual Penetration, and then I pick up Increased Capacity, Extended Magazine, and the most important perk, which is of course Death Strike. After killing a Majoris or higher enemy in melee combat, he will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. All you have to do to actually trigger this perk is just melee execute an enemy, but keep in mind, you have to have your secondary equipped to trigger this effect, and if you swap off during the 10-second duration, you will lose the effect entirely. Next perk here is Great Might, moving here to the perk Strong Start, then I pick up the perk Able Damage. After using a class ability, damage increases by 20% for 10 seconds. On a sniper class, you use your Camo Cloak all the time, so really easy to trigger this over and over. Though I will say, if you want like more flat damage without any conditions, you could go up here for stuff like Discipline and of course Headhunter, but it is up to you. Next perk here is Home Precision, up here into Gunstrike Reload again, and the final perk is Tactical Precision for 20% more headshot damage with a non-headshot damage decrease of 10%, because headshot damage is like really all you care about in this gun for the most part, and especially on a sniper class where you have a 10% buff anyways, just in like our starting perk 3. Now for the melee weapon, we do take the Argent Edge. This is the best fencing weapon in the entire game. Super strong option for like any build that doesn't really want to do a ton of melee damage, because really all you have to do with this weapon is just parry enemies, get that gun strike, trigger perk effects down here like Exacting Focus, and just shoot them in the face with your bolt carbine. So a really good synergy there, and also really good for defense. For the perk tree, it does not matter too much. We just use this as a parry tool for the most part, so you can build however you want, but today I took Perpetual Strength here first, moving here to the perk Kinetic Energy, Perpetual Strength again, Heavy Onslaught, Reeling Blow, Shoulder Bash right here, which should be Shoulder Stab and Shoulder Bash, and then we take the perk here, Tide of Battle as well, and the final perk is Terminus Slayer, because that's really all you need on this weapon, because the actual damage doesn't matter too much, even though the 18 Strength is pretty nice. Now, for the perk tree here, I do start off with the perk Block Break first. Shots will penetrate enemy block stances, dealing 50% of the usual damage. Moving here to the perk Vantage Point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your ranged weapons damage by 20%. This is actually pretty easy to pull off these days with the perk over here, Lingering Concealment, because all you have to do is just go cloak, sit still, shoot your gun. You'll immediately trigger the Lingering Concealment effect to be Camo Cloaked for an extra 2 seconds, and you'll usually have this effect activate during that time period. And also, the Sniper Camo Cloak only has a base cooldown of 90 seconds these days, which is super easy to like cycle back into over and over now, so a really strong option here these days. Next perk here is Dexterous Hands. Bolt carbines reload 20% faster and the weapon spread recoil reduced by 15%. This is the only perk in this column that does anything for us, so definitely pick this up. Next perk is your choice of Marksmanship, Precision Targeting, or even the perk Squad Renewal. We're taking Marksmanship for a flat headshot damage buff because this is pretty nice, but if you want like less weapon spread, you could take this, and also the damage buff against Extremis and Terminus is also pretty good here. Next perk here is Purification. Manually activating Camo Cloak removes negative status effects and restores all contested health. Now, you may be wondering, why are we not taking Renewal or Squad Renewal on this build? Well, the thing is, on the sniper class these days, your cooldown is not that long at all, like I mentioned before, so getting back your Camo Cloak just like a normal cooldown is super easy, which does open up the opportunity to pick up stuff like Purification without building into, things like Renewal for more ability charge. Next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. Now, as of patch 11 forward, the time period this perk works is actually enough to get multiple shots off on like things like the Bolt Carbine and the Heroic Instigator, and for that reason you actually get 5 shots with that 75% damage buff off before it runs out, so really strong for us here and good for like a little bit of extra range damage. Next perk here is Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. Because of that base cooldown reduction, this is a god tier perk now. I mean, it was already a god tier perk before, but like these days it's even better, so definitely grab this. And the final perk here is Power of Excellence. Performing 3 consecutive headshots towards equipment charged by 1, the cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, the only thing the sniper class kind of struggles with in this game is horde clear, so this kind of circumvents that, because if you do wind up finding things like a melt-a-bomb, or even like a shock nade, frag, or crack, this will help you out a ton, because a 30-second melt-a-bomb or like pyroblast or canister is a tremendous amount of horde clear value for only like 3 consecutive headshots, which is super easy to do on a bolt carbine. Now that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. Now we're going to go into the prestige perks here, starting off with the perk Emperor's Grace. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. This perk is just mandatory in my opinion. Invulnerability in Space Marine 2 counts for damage and knockback, so you cannot be knocked over at all. You'll just phase through enemy attacks with this perk active, so a really strong utility option. Next perk here is Versatile Precision, which says performing a kill with your secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. The cooldown is 15 seconds. With this perk, you will pretty much never run out of ammo on your bolt carbine, and because this is a percentage restore, you will get back a ton of bolt carbine because you have a ton of ammo built into this weapon. Now, the final perks here are Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction for 15 seconds on armor break, because this is like the ultimate tank perk for your class. And the final perk here is Exacting Focus, which is after a gun strike, you'll deal 20% more range damage for 10 seconds, because this is just a nice free range damage buff, and once again, we do have an Argent Edge, which makes it pretty easy. And that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. This is one of the easiest builds in the entire game to run on any faction for the sniper class. Really powerful perk synergies here, really powerful heroic options for him. Maybe one day the heroic bolt carbine will crack it even more, but for now, that's all I have to say in this one, and hopefully this build guide helped you. If you like content like this, subscribe for more, and if you want to watch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description. Also, a link to my community Discord. I also want to say a special thank you to my channel members. Your support has helped me make videos like this for like the past 2 years now, and I really appreciate that. And as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye. Hey guys, first regards here, and I'll be talking about a heroic bolt sniper rifle build using the Power Gladius on the sniper class in Space Marine 2 patch 13. Now, the main idea behind this build is using the Power Gladius and Tactical Ambush for enormous melee damage on top of stuff like marksmanship and the heroic bolt sniper rifle to still one-shot Majoris at range, because this weapon is, in my opinion, the overall best weapon on the sniper class if you hit every single headshot, but for most players, it will be the best for like Tyranids, and we'll be using it on that today. So for the perk tree here, the heroic perk effect is called Replenishing Hit. After performing a headshot, one round is automatically reloaded into the weapon, so effectively, as long as you keep hitting your headshots, you will never run out of ammo. But the big thing here is that this weapon will not take benefit from any ammo restoration perk like Reload Restoration, or stuff in your prestige perk tree like Versatile Precision. These perks do not work at all in this weapon, in case you were unaware, so don't take those. Now, for the perk tree here, I do start off with Extended Magazine first, moving here into the perk Divine Might for a 10% damage buff. Then I pick up Finisher Reload down here to Adamantine Grip, and then we grab the perk here Unwavering Resolve. After reloading while having low ammo, damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds, picking up the next perk here, Headhunter, for a 10% headshot damage buff. Then we go down here into the perk Increased Capacity for a 20% ammo reserve buff on this, though this really only comes out to like one extra bullet. One extra bullet is still pretty nice sometimes. Next perk here is Strong Start. First round of magazine deals 25% more damage. Now, when it comes to this perk, because of the way this weapon works, you will actually get ammunition directly back into your magazine, and because of that, you can get the 25% damage buff here every single shot if you keep hitting every single headshot on your first shot in your magazine, so a really powerful perk option for him. And same thing down here for something like Strong Finish for 50% more damage on the last round of magazine. But the obvious downside of this one over the one up here is that if you miss one shot, you're now stuck reloading. So if you want to do that, you definitely can, but the overall perk tree options in this row are a bit better. Next perk here is Cleaving Fire, and the final perk is Recoupment. Killing a Majorist or higher enemy with a headshot, this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Armor restoration built into your bolter weapon like this is super nice, and a lot of the time you'll be playing the sniper class, you'll be getting shot at by like a Tyranid Devourer or something like that, and you'll get some chip damage on you, and having that one extra armor off the headshot kill will help you out a ton, avoiding any HP loss. So that's pretty much all there is for the bolt sniper here, and this perk is very strong. Now for the secondary, I do take the Firepower Bolt Pistol because this weapon's actually pretty good as of like patch 11 plus. They did buff up all the bolt pistol damage, and for the most part, I think this one fits pretty well with stuff like Power of Excellence for 3 consecutive headshots, because it is very easy to just pull off 3 headshots on a bolt pistol, like the heroic variant, or even the heavy bolt pistol if you want to use that instead. Now, for the perk tree here, I do start off with the perk Perpetual Precision, moving here to the perk Headhunter, Gunstrike Reload, and then pick up Increased Capacity, Headhunter again, and the most important perk, which is of course Elite Hunter. After killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a melee weapon, headshots will deal 50% more damage for 10 seconds. This will apply on a melee execute, not just a melee kill, and a 50% buff here is super strong. Just be aware that if you swap off your gun or you don't have your gun equipped when this triggers, you will lose the effect or not apply it at all. Next perk here is Headhunter, down here into the perk Extended Magazine, and the final perk is Divine Might, and that's all there is for the bolt pistol here. Now, for our melee weapon, we do take the Power Gladius, because this one has the top tier damage effect for the heroic perk with Agile Strike. After a perfect dodge, the next melee attack deals 120% more damage, can be stacked up to 3 times. Now, when you stack this all the way with stuff like Shadow Stab on top of your perk tree options like Tactical Ambush for 150% more melee damage on a Camo Cloak break, you will do a stupid amount of melee damage on a single Shadow Stab. Really powerful option for this class, and also the 7+ speed here makes it pretty strong for Horde Clear as well. Now, for the perk tree, we just set up for all heavy attack damage pretty much, starting off with Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk Kinetic Energy, and then we pick up a Perpetual Strength again into the perk here Heavy Onslaught, and then I grab the perk Reeling Blow and of course Shadow Stab, because Shadow Stab is the single best single target damage ability on this weapon, like really the whole selling point of the knife in general. And next perk here is Tide of Battle, and then I pick up Shoulder Bash. Now, this perk isn't like completely mandatory. You could just skip this over for like another 5% buff here in Perpetual Strength, but I think the Shoulder Bash is a way better lunging attack than normal distance stab is, so I do like to pick it up. And the final perk here is Terminus Slayer for 20% more damage against Terminus level enemies, because usually if you're going for like 360% bonus damage on a single Shadow Stab, you're going to be using that on a boss, so definitely pick this up. And that's pretty much all there is for our weapon setup. Now, for the perk tree, we just go for all melee damage here, starting off with Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 20% against Majoris and higher enemies. This is a 20% multiplicative melee damage buff. It's actually one of the best melee perks in the game, which is pretty funny to find it on a sniper class. And next perk here is, of course, Adaptability. Reloading while having low ammo or manually activating Camo Cloak increases melee damage by 25% for 10 seconds. You will be activating Camo Cloak to trigger Tactical Ambush anyways, so really good synergy there. The next perk here is Iron Grip. A weapon spread and recoil reduced by 20%, and range damage against Terminus level enemies is increased by 15% for both sniper rifles and stalker bolt rifles. Now, we only have a bolt sniper rifle here. This is the only perk that does anything in this column, so definitely pick this up. And next perk here is Marksmanship. Headshot damage increases by 10% for all team members. Moving down here into the perk Renewal. A headshot kill restores Camo Cloak's charge by 15%. And I will say, if you want to take something like Precision Targeting or Squad Renewal and Purification, you could do that instead, or you could just match this perk with Marksmanship anyways, because back in like patch 12, they did lower the base cooldown of the Camo Cloak down to 90 seconds from like 120, so it's way easier to maintain now without things like Renewal. But that being said, I still think this one's the overall best option, but Purification is definitely a safer option here. Next perk here is Tactical Ambush. The first melee attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 150% more damage, and the next perk is Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. With the new base cooldown being 90 on the Camo Cloak, this is such a strong perk effect, because you'll pretty much have your Camo Cloak come back before like this is even running out half the time, so really strong option for you. I would definitely pick this up. And the final perk here is Power of Excellence, of course. Performing 3 consecutive headshots restores women's charge by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This is the main form of Horde Clear on this build. Doesn't matter if it's like a shock grenade, crack grenade, frag, it can really be anything even outside of melta bombs. This is just a very powerful perk effect, because equipment in Space Marine 2 in general is just life-saving, so definitely grab this. Now, for our prestige perk options, we just take Emperor's Grace first, moving here into the perk Indomitable Spirit. Then I pick up Conviction and Exacting Focus for more range damage, because that is the overall best setup on this in my opinion. You could skip over some stuff, like maybe you don't want Exacting Focus, you want Material Upgrade instead, but this perk here does nothing for us, and versatility is not that strong with a bolt pistol, so for that reason, I do think these 4 here are the best option. That's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. The bolt sniper rifle's a very strong weapon these days. I think this one has really benefited from just like the overall, power creep of the game in general. And it was already a very strong option when it came out in patch 11, but hopefully this build guide helped you. If you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to watch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description. I'll also have a link to my community Discord. I also want to say a special thank you to all of my channel members. You guys have been super supportive and I appreciate that a ton. And as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye. Hey guys, first regardsman here, and I'll be talking about a heroic Instigator bolt carbine build for the sniper class in Space Marine 2 patch 13. Now, this build is mainly going for hip fire on the Instigator and horde clear off of things like the Inferno pistol and our bombs of Pattern of Excellence, and to achieve our laser beam hip fire, we will be taking things like Dexterous Hands and the perk here Precision Targeting on top of the perk in our weapon perk tree, which is of course Home Precision. Equipped weapons maximum spread decreases by 50% when firing without aiming. Now, this perk makes your gun a laser beam on the hip fire. You can like just shoot guys off the hip fire from a mile away. Super fun option. It makes this gun feel pretty damn good, and this weapon's already pretty strong on the sniper anyways. Now, for the rest of the perk tree here, you have a couple options. Now, I go down the bottom row first for extended magazine. Magazine size increases by 15% of the maximum. This will give us 5 more shots in our magazine and 5 more shots with the perk over here, targeted shot. That is enough in your camo cloak to one burst a Majoris Rubric Marine or like the other ranged Tyranid warriors like a Venom Cannon. So pretty good for that. And also more ammo is just pretty nice off of things like Adamant Restoration here, or Reload Restoration I should say, which is after reloading your ammo reserve restored by 50% of the number of enemies hit, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity. So I do prefer the bottom row, but if you want more damage you can go up here for like Efficient Hunter and the perk here Headhunter. Now the next perk I take here is Divine Might, moving up here into the perk Fast Reload. This weapon reloads 10% faster. We mainly go here so we can pick up the much better perk, which is Finisher Reload. After a finisher of the equipped weapon instantaneously reloads. This is a super nice perk effect when you're using this gun and you actually just want to like run around and just fire all the time and you don't have the perk here Efficient Readiness. This is a super nice option, just have your weapon topped off all the time. Next perk here is Recoupment. Killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a headshot of this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Getting 1 armor back on the headshot is super damn useful in hard strats and the operations mode, so we're taking that today. And we also pick this up so we can move into the next perk here, which is very strong, which is Tactical Precision. Headshots will deal 20% more damage, non-headshot damage decreases by 10%. On the sniper class especially, you pretty much always want headshot damage because not only do you have perks in your perk tree like Marksmanship for more headshot damage, you also have things in your perk tree like your base starting perk for a starting perk increase of 10% for your headshot damage. So really important, just like building the headshot perks in my opinion. Now the next perk here is Headhunter down here into the perk Great Might. Then we pick up the perk here Home Precision for that laser beam hip fire, and that's pretty much all there is for the perk tree setup here. Now I will say, if you want to skip Headhunter here and you want to go down here for the perk Cleaving Fire instead, you can do 75% damage on this build with the perk Block Break on a blocking enemy. That is actually pretty strong on this gun. It does make it pretty easy to just like blow through the Tyranid warriors that are using their sword arms, and because of that, if you want to take that perk instead, you definitely can. I just prefer the option up here instead for headshot damage. And that's pretty much all there is for this gun. Now for our secondary here, I do take the Inferno pistol. Now the Inferno pistol is a really nice complement to the Instigator here because our horde clear is not like super strong on this build without things like a Melt the Bomb spam off this perk or an Inferno pistol to clean up Hormigons, and being able to trigger your armor regen off of trick shot and stuff like that. It's just pretty valuable on this build in my opinion. Now the variant I pick here is the ammo capacity magazine version. If you want to take the rate of fire version, you can also do that. That is up to you. I just prefer more overall ammo on this build because I do want to get more triggers off of things like Versatile Precision. Now for the perk tree here, I do take the perk Perpetual Range first, moving here into the perk Brace Reload, and then we pick up Perpetual Range again, the perk here Great Might, moving into Increased Capacity, Adamant Restoration, Extra Shot, and Trick Shot. That's pretty much all there is for this build. And if you take the rate of fire one, I would also just build it the same way, but you could go up top if you really wanted to. Now for the melee weapon, We are not building for melee damage at all today, so we're taking the Argent Edge. This has the heroic perk effect down here, Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each perfect parry damages and staggers the enemy. Now, when it says stagger the enemy, that means you get a gun strike on every parry no matter what. There are multiple combo chains in Space Marine 2 that will not give you a perfect parry gun strike opportunity on the first one. They have like a set breakpoint. So for example, a triple Ravener combo, only the final hit of that will usually give you a gun strike. With this perk, you'll get the gun strike off the first parry. So super good for preventing stun locks, and also just great for like triggering perk effects like we have in our Prestige perk tree with Exacting Focus for 20% more range damage on a gun strike. So a really nice option there. Now for the perk tree, it doesn't matter too much on this build because you're mainly using this weapon for defensing parry window, or excuse me, like the stagger here really. And the perk tree option I took is just Perpetual Strength, Kinetic Energy into the perk Perpetual Strength again. Then I pick up the perk here, Heavy Onslaught, Reeling Blow, Shadow Stab, Tide of Battle, Shoulder Bash, and Terminus Slayer. And that's pretty much all there is for our melee selection and our overall weapon selection. Now, for the Sniper's perk tree, I do start off with the perk here, Block Break first. Shots will penetrate enemy block stances, dealing 50% of the usual damage. Now, normally I take Melee Mastery for a 20% multiplicative melee damage buff against Majoris and higher enemies, but on this build, we really do prefer Block Break because our Argent Edge, we're not really using this for melee damage out of things like Hormagaunts anyways, so having Block Break, being able to shoot through Biovore plates, being able to shoot through Shield Zangors, and of course the Bone Sword Warriors, that is really useful for us, and you'll actually nuke them down pretty quick. Next perk here is Vantage Point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your ranged weapons damage by 20%. Now, because they buffed the Sniper Camo Cloak base cooldown to be 90 seconds instead of 125 seconds, you can actually trigger this perk after firing immediately with Lingering Concealment for a 2-second lingering duration on your Camo Cloak, and your Camo Cloak will pretty much come back immediately to do it again. You don't have to move much at all, and Vantage Point is pretty strong because sitting in one spot now is pretty easy. Next perk here is Dexterous Hands. Bolt Carbines reload 20% faster, and their weapon spread and recoil reduced by 15%. This is the only perk in this column that does anything for us, so definitely pick it up. And the next perk here is, of course, the perk Precision Targeting. Weapon spread is reduced by 25%, and the range damage you do against Extremis and Terminus level enemies is increased by 15% for all team members. Now, this buffs up boss damage for your teammates, but also the weapon spread reduction here, that makes your gun significantly better. With the buffed Camo Cloak cooldown of 90 seconds, you don't actually need to take perks down here like Squad Renewal or Renewal anymore. You can actually just like cycle into your Camo Cloak off Lingering Concealment pretty easily because the base cooldown is really not that bad anymore. That opens you up to take these team perks here and stuff like Purification on top of that, which is what we'll be doing today. Now, this one says that manually activating Camo Cloak removes negative status effects and restores all contested health. This is a god tier perk on the Sniper class, especially for the new operation, because you can Camo Cloak cancel and just get rid of your status effect and like the Poison Swamp whenever you want. A pretty fun option here, though I will say you can really take whatever you want on this column here if you feel comfortable with that. This is just the safest option, and vice versa here. If you want to take Marksmanship or Squad Renewal, you could do that. You will just lose a bit of your weapon spread off of this perk. Next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. Now, back in patch 11, they actually buffed up this perk to have a lingering duration that is long enough to get the full damage effect on a single burst of your 5-round burst here, so pretty good for this build especially. And next perk here is Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. Now, this perk is significantly stronger with that 90-second base cooldown on your Camo Cloak because any shot from your bolt weapons like an Instigator Carbine will break the Camo Cloak immediately, and because of that, you will be in that 2-second lingering duration, and your Camo Cloak recharge will come back pretty much immediately after, which is super strong. You can cycle back into your Camo Cloak very easily from stealth because of that, so you definitely want this perk on this build. Final perk here is Pattern of Excellence, performing 3 consecutive headshots restores equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, this is the main source of equipment regen on this class in general, and really the only source here, because 30-second Melt-A-Bombs, Shock Nades, Cracks, Pyroblaster Canisters, those will all solve problems for you all on their own. Equipment just wins games, in this game, and for that reason, you pretty much always pick up this perk. And also just say, on this build especially, since we don't have like a Power Gladius and stuff, being able to like auto remove a Terminator or something from a boss fight with a Melt-A-Bomb, that is invaluable, so definitely grab this. And also getting the 3 consecutive headshots, every single shot from the burst fire of this heroic perk effect will count as an individual shot for the effects of this perk, so very easy to trigger. Now for the prestige perk options here, I do take Emperor's Race first. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. Now, invulnerability in Space Marine 2 will count for both knockback and damage, and because of that, this gives you a ridiculous amount of utility. You pretty much always pick this up. This is an S tier perk for sure, like one of the best in the whole game. Next perk here is Versatile Precision. Performing a kill with your secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This just solves the ammo economy of the sniper class all on its own. You pretty much always grab this because as long as you're not using the heroic bolt sniper, it will benefit your primary weapon. Final perks here are Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction for 15 seconds on armor break, because this perk makes the sniper significantly tanky. In fact, this perk alone is why he is so much tankier than, say, a Tech Marine, because Tech Marine can get nuked very easily, and Sniper has this HP damage reduction for 15 seconds, which is very powerful. God tier perk, you pretty much always pick up these three. Final perk here is Exacting Focus. After a gun strike, you will deal 20% more range damage for 10 seconds here. This is very easy to trigger on any build ever, pretty much. The Argent Edge especially, though, is super strong for this, and a 20% buff, that is basically free. And that's pretty much all there is for this heroic Instigator build, guys. This one is really easy to run through on both Chaos and Tyranids. Purification is a super strong perk effect. The base cooldown buff they didn't like patch 12.2. It just made the sniper significantly better overall and really opened up some build variety for him. But if you want an even easier time, you could take Squad Renewal on top of this, and that'll make your life even, like, you know, that much easier. And that's pretty much all there is for this one, guys. Hopefully this build guide helped you. Guys, first regards in here, I'll be talking about an endless ammo bolt sniper rifle build for the sniper class in Space Marine 2 patch 13. Now, I know a lot of you guys like the heroic bolt sniper rifle, but this weapon can be a little tricky to use for a lot of players, and today I want to go over a bit of a different bolt sniper rifle build using one of the relic tier options, more importantly the ammo reserve option. Now, the big thing about this weapon is that you have a fat stack of ammo in like pretty much every relic tier option compared to the heroic version, and that means you can also take advantage of things like Versatile Precision in your prestige perk tree and percentage increases on your total ammunition with stuff like high capacity, so we'll be building around that today. Now, for the perk tree, I do start off with the perk here, Extended Magazine first. Magazine size increases by 15% of the maximum, moving here to the perk Divine Might for a 10% damage buff. Now, you could go down here for stuff like Remote Threat and Survival Instinct if you wanted to, but like building over into stuff like Reload Restoration later will be a bit more difficult. Next perk here is Finisher Reload, moving here into the perk Unwavering Resolve. After reloading while having low ammo, damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds. But then I pick up the perk here Headhunter for a 10% headshot damage buff, and down here into the perk Increased Capacity for 20% more total ammunition. And the next perk here is Strong Start. First round of magazine deals 25% more damage. Now, if you don't want this one, you can take the one down here, which is Strong Finish. Last round of magazine deals 50% more damage. They're both pretty good, but like I usually find that I'm like topped off on this build thanks to Finisher Reload all the time, so this one is definitely getting more use. Next perk here is Cleaving Fire, down here into the perk Reloaded Restoration. After reloading, your ammo reserve is restored by 50% of the number of enemies hit, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity. Now, on this build, you pretty much never run out of ammo with like this perk here and stuff like Increased Capacity on the fat base ammo reserve option, so you can pretty much fire your bolt sniper rifle forever, and this helps out with that a ton. Final perk here is Recoupment, killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Armor restoration built into bolter weapons like this is very strong because usually you're taking a weapon like the bolt sniper rifle against Tyranids anyways, and Tyranids are very easy to trigger this perk effect against. It's also very nice against them if you're fighting stuff like a Devourer, because the way that the enemies die in Space Marine 2, in my experience, is that a Devourer will shoot a volley at you, you will get the headshot insta-kill on them, and then that volley might like chip damage you, and having that one extra armor bar completely avoids HP loss, which is super nice on this option. Now, for the secondary here, we do take the Firepower Bolt Pistol, because at the moment, the Firepower Bolt Pistol is actually one of the strongest gun strikes in the entire game. Like, its damage is pretty comparable to a Heroic Bolt Pistol. Actually, I think it's above the Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol right now, and it's only outclassed by the Firepower Heavy Bolt Pistol, which is pretty insane. And also, the fast fire rate on the Firepower Bolt Pistol makes it very easy to trigger perk effects like Power of Excellence for 3 consecutive headshots. So overall, very strong option. And even though I do occasionally take the Heroic Bolt Pistol option for that burst effect to trigger our Power of Excellence perk, I think this one's just a much stronger gun overall, so I'm picking it here today. Now, for the perk tree. I do start off with the perk here, Perpetual Precision first, moving here into the perk Headhunter, Gunstrike Reload, into the perk here, Increased Capacity, and Headhunter again. Then I pick up the perk here, Elite Hunter. After killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a melee weapon, headshots will deal 50% more damage for 10 seconds. All you have to do to trigger this perk is get a melee execute. Just keep in mind that if you're playing a sniper class where you have a primary ranged weapon, you have to have your secondary weapon equipped to actually trigger it. And if you swap off of your secondary for any reason during the 10-second duration, you will lose the effect entirely. Next perk here is Headhunter, down here into the perk Extended Magazine, and the final perk here is Divine Might, and that's all there is for our secondary option. Now, for the melee weapon, we're taking the bold choice of a Fencing Argent Edge option, because the Argent Edge is just the best defensive tool on like any fencing option in Space Marine 2 at the moment. It is kind of absurd how strong this weapon actually is, and the hero perk effect down here is called Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each perfect parry damages and staggers the enemy, so basically, if you're unaware, for like all two of you, every time you parry an enemy on this weapon, you will get a gunstrike opportunity no matter what on stuff like Raveners, melee Terminators, and stuff like that. It does not matter where they are in their combo chain, because there are a lot of enemies in Space Marine 2 where the initial parry on their combo chain will not stagger them, but this one will and give you that gunstrike opportunity every time, and that's good on its own for just defense. But on a sniper class where you have perk effects like Exacting Focus for getting more range damage after a gunstrike, getting gunstrikes faster is even better, so a really good option for us all around. Now, as far as the perk tree is concerned on this, it really does not matter too much, because you're not using this as like a melee weapon as much as you're using it as a parry stick. So for that reason, we start off with Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk Kinetic Energy. Then I pick up Perpetual Strength again, Heavy Onslaught for more melee damage on our heavy attacks. Then we grab Reeling Blow, Shadow Stab for single target, up here into Tide of Battle. And then I grab Shoulder Bash, and the final perk here is Terminus Slayer for a 20% damage buff against Terminus level enemies. And that is pretty much all there is for the Argent Edge. Now, for our main perk tree, you have a couple options here. You could take Block Break if you really wanted to, but like, I don't care too much about this. Like, it is up to you. The Melee Mastery perk is a 20% multiplicative melee damage buff against Majoris and higher enemies, which is still pretty damn strong on an Argent Edge, because even though I said we're using this as a parry stick, the Shadow Stab is still pretty decent, and the 18 strength as a base damage is actually quite high, so things like Melee Mastery, they do help that out. Next perk here is High Capacity. The maximum amount of ammo you can carry increases by 10%. You don't have to take this if you don't want to. You could pick up Vantage Point for a 20% range damage buff for 2 seconds while remaining stationary. This is not a bad option these days, because sitting in your cloak is actually quite easy, especially with stuff like Renewal to get it back quite quickly. Though I will say, High Capacity, that's just pretty much guarantees you will never run out of ammo. Next perk here is Iron Grip. Weapon spread and recoil reduced by 20%, and range damage against Terminus level enemies is increased by 15% for both sniper rifles and stalker bolt rifles. Now, we are using a bolt sniper rifle, so this one is just a no-brainer for us, because these other two do nothing. Next perk here is really up to you. Now, you can go through the classic combo of Squad Renewal and Purification. This is definitely the safest option. But the perk I take here is Marksmanship for a 10% headshot damage buff, and then I use Renewal down here for Camo Cloak recharge. So I will say, if you want to take Purification and Marksmanship, you can do that these days, because Camo Cloak's base cooldown is only 90 seconds. So as long as you shoot your gun immediately after cloaking, you will trigger your cooldown almost instantly, and it'll come back very quickly. And Linger Concealment makes that even easier, so this is definitely an option, but today I'm taking Renewal. Next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. Now, unlike the Heroic Bolt Sniper Rifle, we don't have a succulent 20 times headshot multiplier, so we are lacking for like a little bit of damage here, and having this cloak option for like a 75% bonus is very strong for us. And also in Space Marine 2, all ranged enemies take a 50% range damage increase, and that means you will one-shot like Bramble Warriors and Tyranid Devourers and Snipers and stuff like that when it's active. Next perk here is Linger Concealment. After forming an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. Ever since they buffed up the Camo Cloak base cooldown to be only 90 seconds, a Lingering Concealment has kind of gone like through the roof in value, and for that reason I pretty much take it all the time, but Persistence is still a very strong perk for a damage reduction and a knockback. Final perk here is a Pattern of Excellence, performing 3 consecutive headshots towards equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This perk kind of just solves all problems for the sniper class. The biggest issue on the sniper is that you don't have amazing horde control, but if you get a Melt-A-Bomb, a Shock Grenade, a Frag Spam even, this will just give you that back on a 30-second cooldown effectively, which is super strong and really does help you out a ton with like your class synergy. Now, for the prestige perk options, I do take Emperor's Grace first. When Camel Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. Now, invulnerability in Space Marine 2 counts for not only your damage taken, but also your knockback. So while this is active, you cannot get knocked over, which is super useful for setting up shots and just like utility options. Next perk here is Versatile Precision. Performing a kill through secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This is usually not functional on a heroic bolt sniper rifle, but on this build, you get the full benefit from that fat magazine size, or excuse me, that fat ammo reserve you have on this option, so great for us here. And the final perks here are Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction for 15 seconds on armor break, because this makes you way tankier in this game. And the final perk is Exacting Focus for that 20% buff for 10 seconds after a gun strike. And that is pretty much all there is for this build, guys. I mean, the bolt sniper rifle is obviously better against the Tyranid faction than Chaos, but you could take this against Chaos. I mean, your ammunition is really not that big of an issue at all, so if you miss like 90% of your shots, you'll probably still be topped off. But hopefully this build guide helped you, and if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to catch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description, and also a link to my community Discord. And I also want to say a special thank you to my channel members. Your support has helped me make content like this for like nearly 2 years now, and I really appreciate that, guys. And as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye.